right. All right, the City Committee on Government Services co-posted with the Committee of a Whole. Thank you. City Council Committee of Government Services co-posted with the Committee of a Whole will meet in person Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for the purpose of discussing tree commission appointees. Just to be clear, this is just the committee. The second action will be the Committee of a Whole. Applications and the City Council to delegate authority to the City Clerk for the use of City Council chambers and anteroom for the City Council President's approval. This meeting will be held in City Council Chambers, 93 Washington Street, second floor. Click on the link below, password 037925, and we'll go from there. So our first agenda item, I'm going to read the order to make it clear here. I'm sorry. And then, so right now we have for the committee, we have all counselors in person except for Counselor Stott is absent, and I will hold the Committee of a Whole. Today we have 4 applicants today, and we'll start with the order. So City Council, March 13, 2025, order that the Government Services co-posted with the Committee of a Whole, which is very interesting. Well, co-post. I know it says co-post. We'll meet to consider applications submitted by interested residents for the Tree Commission. Applications are due to the City Council Clerk by May 16th, 2025. The available City Council appointments for the Commission include a member who is a licensed landscape architect or certified arborist, and an alternate member of the general public. So today we have a few applicants here. We have Mr. Jacob St. Louis, we have Maria Connell, Flora Tonthat, and what's your first name? David Livingston, thank you, here. So for time's sake, I know Mr. Livingston has a night class, so we're going to start with him. So how this goes is these are interviews for these spots and appointments. So you guys can get up, a few minutes, talk kind of like why you want to be a part of the Tree Commission, speak to your expertise, and we'll go from there. So I'll start with you, sir.
Sure.
So you can come right up to the podium and start there.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to join this commission after working with or for Darlene during a volunteer effort along canal, cleaning roots for trees. And I'm just passionate. I'm very interested in trees. They bring a lot to me personally. And I think that they're really important for urban landscapes, for Salem's diverse community to appreciate, to experience the well-being that trees afford them. And I have a background in the arts, and I feel that I could help the Tree Committee to promote itself further and have outreach to more people in Salem so that more people are aware of what the Tree Committee does, all the amazing things that they do. And so that's one of the things that I'd like to contribute to the Tree Committee. I also just value nature and birds, migrating birds, and how important it is to create spaces for them to stop along their way, and also how their presence adds a great deal of value to everybody in Salem. That's you know, I'm not a tree expert by any means, but I would love to participate.
Awesome. Thank you for that
Yeah.
background. One question I have for you, and I'll have for all applicants. I know with our city boards here, sometimes we have trouble meeting quorum just for attendance. What kind of commitment can you bring to the Tree Commission as far as nightly meetings? I know it's once a month, but I understand you do have a night class tonight, and I just want to
I
make
do.
Is that something that's going to be accommodate?
I think so. I do have regular night classes, so I would have to kind of figure out how to work this into it, or maybe just talk to professors and say, hey, can I just take this night off?
Excellent. Thank you. Any question from the committee? Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that I am the liaison to the Tree Commission, so I have been, I was going to say lurking, but attending meetings and understanding kind of the makeup of the committee and the needs. And one of the needs is something I think that you may probably bring to the table, and that is, it is a lot about education. It is a lot about getting the public to understand the significance of how to take care of their trees so that they last, right? And so Ms. Mellis is a huge advocate for educating the public and trying to come out with ways, like through posters, through online postings, for instance, from the city, to teach people. Other ways, having these volunteer events, which I think you talked about, where you go in and you kind of fix the mess of the mulch volcanoes that are around the trees, and the significance of that. So something that stood out on your resume was your background in design, in art, in graphic design, but also your education experience, and I think kind of trying to bring people along by educating them. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I would say that, as an educator, I am good at communicating with younger people and crafting messages that resonate with them. And so, I'm learning more about what, this position entails, but my thoughts are that, yeah, I could come up with ways to engage with all people of all different ages. I've taught at lots of community colleges and taught people of all different ages, and I like to do that. Yeah, I think that people need to know why they should value trees and what trees offer to them. I think a lot of people just take them for granted, and I think creating interest, what do they add to us? What do they add to the ecology of where we live? I think that they're actually quite fascinating organisms, if you will, or plants, and thinking about the complexities of them and the way that they help us and the local ecosystems can make it so that people don't just think of them as shade, even though that's a hugely valuable part of what trees do for us.
So I guess would you be able to volunteer kind of outside of the meeting time to work on projects to help design informational flyers, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Because that is one thing that one of the people who stepped down from the commission, Jane Rumrell, brought to the commission, was kind of this background in design and being able to simplify ideas through a picture. And so that did stick out in my mind. And, I will say, don't feel bad about not having a background in this. I have no background in trees, and I never thought in a million years this would be something I would be learning about as a city councilor, but you learn a lot going to those meetings, so hats off to that commission, but thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. Yes, that interests me as well, because I do know Ms. Mellis's work of educating us all, the images of over-mulching and just everything that she's provided. And also, I do value that you could assist in that space outside of meetings and creating content and pushing it out. And I was wondering if that would include, social media assistance as well, and communicating, with us that have newsletters and all that good stuff, as Councilor Marcillo said. And also, too, just, if you could just speak again that to the point that with the advance notice, you would feel comfortable, making the meetings and the understanding of what, what this entails to join the commission. Great, thanks.
All right, any other questions on the committee? All right, thank you, Mr. Livingston.
All right, thank you.
And if you have to go to your class, I completely understand. We'll let you know about the decision, whatever happens.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, next, let's have Maria Connell. Come on up.
Good evening, everyone. So I feel like I can echo a lot of what David just said. I think all of us who are applying for this job are pretty passionate about trees and might not necessarily have a deep background, as I indicated in my application. I'm not a trained arborist or a landscape architect. However, I'm very passionate about Salem and the ecosystem here. I currently volunteer with the Salem Beautification Committee, and that's a couple of times a week, and making time for that within my schedule. So without reiterating what David said there, I applied for this role 3 years ago, and there were two other folks who are a little bit more qualified, but that didn't stop me from learning the ecosystem and what trees live around the city. I live in the Willows. I've learned the two tallest tulip trees that are in Salem live down there, and I just keep up with tree health and tree issues. I've not yet made it to volunteer with the commission for one of the volcano mulch sort of cleanup activities, but I do that independent from the commission, because I feel pretty empowered through the Beautification Committee and what I've learned as a just steward of the land and of the ecosystem for which I'm a part of. So happy to answer questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Connell. I guess my first question would be, what kind of commitment can you bring as far as when it comes to meetings once a month?
So I'm 100% in. The time is blocked on my calendar to participate in these meetings and add more of the volunteer meetups into my regular rotation.
Excellent. Very good. Any questions from the committee? Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, Chair. So I do remember you from 3 years ago, and I appreciate that you applied again. I think that's great that you're interested in serving on another board in Salem, and when I looked at your resume, I remembered all the stuff. So, and it also looks like you're continuing in education, right? So
that's true.
That's great. Mm-hmm. That's great. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. Yes, I found it so interesting on your resume that you're getting the certifications. I was just curious, the ones expected in August and expected in October, and they sound so interesting. Native plants and horticulture and design. How long do those courses take? I was just personally curious when I
Yeah,
saw
so
that
there's
on the resume.
self-study, and that's a great organization. The Native Plant Trust, as you might know, is out Garden in the Woods in Framingham. So typically, I've been getting through coursework over a 3-month period. That's just, how I've carved out for my sort of continuing education cadence. But they're pretty structured in the coursework that they're offering.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll just add the Mass Audubon, that Conservation in Action program, that was over 11 weeks, a virtual meeting. And then it was hands-on time and writing about those experiences. So I wrote about my involvement with the Great Salem Cleanup and working at Mary Jane Lee Park. Yeah, so it's pretty structured. I would say between that 10 to 12 week time frame is most common.
Excellent. Any other comments from the committee? All right. Thank you very much, Maria. Appreciate it. All right. Next we have Flora Tonthat.
Hi. So, I on my own, started my own bed and breakfast in 2002. I have a tech background. I've maintained my website and social media. I'm, very much an environmentalist. We found out about the gas leaks. The trees told us that. There's a special kind of fungi or something that was killing it, that was developing because of the gas leak. So I was in the Lorex task force with Darlene, and which created the tree commission. I raised monarch butterflies, and I've taught others, and I've shared that with the Carleton School kids in a big event they did. I started the Bridge Street Neck Neighborhood Association in 2014, and that was when I turned that traffic island with the Bridge Street Neck sign from like just a weedy mess into like a pollinator garden, and then I took over that traffic island as a business that is huge, that is like in the big one, that is like in the middle of that pocket park. And it was full of landfill from the Bridge Street Neck construction, and now it's a pollinator garden. I worked with Darlene and Barbara Warren, who also served on the Lorex task force, on the DCR tree program, and I advocated for 15 trees to go into Gagne Park because, the trees planted there were not quite appropriate for that location that doesn't get much shade or rain. It's just like really desert. And so Darlene and I actually also rescued some oak trees that were had root bound. And we just cleaned that up along with the tree warden then, I forget his name, but the previous tree warden. So I started, I rallied the neighborhood. We got a water brigade. With 2 years, we were responsible for watering, keeping the trees watered. And I started GoFundMe to also get the watering truck to water during the hottest months. And we raised a couple $1,000s. And I've always advocated, I advocated for the Mac Park Food Farm from the get-go, because I think that, it's just like this whole system, right? It's not just like a tree here, a tree there, a tree there. It's, I would love to see more native trees. I would love to see a tree chain, a tree cluster. they communicate. We now know they communicate, with each other through the roots, and they sustain and support each other. And we want them to do well. We want them to assist each other, So I'm very passionate. I'm a self-learner, self-starter, initiate a lot of stuff, And then I also volunteer with the Bittersweet Brigade. You see how they choke the tree. They actually leave this mark of So I'm a big environmentalist, and trees is just one of the things.
Awesome. Thank you, Flora. I guess my first question would be, can you speak a little more on your experience with Gagne Park? I know you were a big part of making sure those trees were taken care of. I remember that years ago, that was definitely a real benefit to plantings in that unideal spot in the city. Can you speak more about your...
Yeah, it was a remediated brownfield, and I wanted to get fruit trees to supplement Mac Park Food Farm, but then we found out we couldn't do that, and then we came, before but I think you were involved, Patty, to get it's to close up the EPA thing, and so that we could plant trees. And so we weren't, because it's only 3 feet deep, and they didn't want any liability of people, eating fruits from, something that might have the roots might go deeper than 3 feet. So then we said, okay, well, we'll just have to settle for berry trees that are good for the birds. So we create a nice ecosystem with biodiversity and fruits and trees that are appropriate for the changing climate. And so I work with Darlene and Naomi on the tree commission to select the appropriate trees in varying heights and shade and fruits. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions of the committee? Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being so persistent about Gagne Park. That last step with remediation is the one that always takes the longest. And so your persistence with that certainly helped close up that EPA paperwork. And it's just so much red tape. I had a question, though, and this has nothing to do with anything other than, why wasn't the city watering those trees? It's a park, right?
We're committed. It's part of the DCR program that, because it's not a city program, maybe, that the trees that they provide for whoever is asked for it. In this case, it was the Bridge Street neighborhood, so,
Okay.
yeah, that's why.
Fair. That's fair. All right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. And I also want to echo that. I know the work you've done in your committee and very familiar with Gagne Park and the efforts you made to not just get those trees planted, but keep them thriving.
I just want to add that I continue to learn a lot from Chris Burke, who does tree tours and everything, and we do have a giant ash tree at the end of Northeast Street that the neighborhood is putting in money to help save, and to try to treat it. We did try to treat it once, and it's the gap year, and then we have to see how it goes. But we are making effort.
Councilor Morcillo.
Thank you, Chair. Just one last thing. It warmed my heart to see the Bittersweet Brigade on 2 applications tonight. That's huge. That was just started a few years ago by Chris and trying to get people together on Super Bowl Sunday, and it's great that so many people know about this effort.
Yeah.
We need more people involved, certainly. Because it's really important. It is definitely killing trees in large numbers all over the city. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Flora. All right, so we're going to move. So those were the 3 applicants for the alternate member of the general public. We're going to move on to, we need a member who is a licensed landscape architect or a certified arborist. So Mr. Jacob St. Louis, if you can come up here. Appreciate it.
Evening. Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm Jacob St. Louis. I've been a professional arborist for 9 years. I'm certified with the Massachusetts Arborist Association and the International Society of Arboriculture. So I've lived in Salem for 5 years now. Ever since I've moved here, I've been looking for ways to be involved in the community in any way I can, any way I can be a resource. It's been very rewarding when I have been able to find ways to be involved with the Bittersweet Brigade or with any of the work going on at Green Lawn to inventory the trees there. I do some other volunteer work as well with the Cemetery Commission. Urban tree canopies are an incredibly important part of any city. They're going to do a lot for heat island effect. They're going to do a lot to cool temperatures, and so that's going to save residents money on summertime energy bills. It's going to be something that's going to help with stormwater management. It's a really big deal that is very easy to overlook, and this is, what I do professionally, so this is a service that I can offer.
Excellent. Mr. St. Louis, could you speak on what you do professionally and who you work for?
Sure. I'm the tree warden. I'm the city arborist for the city of Everett. I've been there for about 1.5 years.
Excellent. And I guess my question, to be consistent, what kind of commitment can you bring to the commission when it comes to just making meetings? Is that something that you should be able to accommodate to?
Yeah, I can make the meetings. I usually tune in when I can anyway, and it hasn't really come as an issue to date, so.
Excellent. Any questions from the committee? Going once, going twice. Thank you, Mayor St. Louis. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So I think what we're going to do is let's start with So we're first going to start with a reappointment. If I can entertain a motion, Councilor Marcillo.
I move to refer to the council the approval of the reappointment of Katie Goldfield in the position of the member from the general public. I think that's it.
All right. Great.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion to reappoint Katie Goldfield to the position of general public. All those in favor? Like the record show, I see 3 hands plus my own. That matter carries. Next, we will go for the certified arborist or landscape architect. Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, Chair. I move to refer to the council the approval of the appointment of Jacob St. Louis in the position of the certified arborist.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Harvey. All those in favor? Let the record show I see 3 hands plus my own. Matter carries. All right, and we have our alternate member of the general public, Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela. I just want to say how grateful I am for the applicants that we get, that we have here tonight, and that we get in general for our boards and committees and commissions. And we're so fortunate that we have such impressive applicants that bring, such passion has been expressed for all the volunteer committees we have. I've done the invasive species brigade and just the beautification committee and just everything that was spoken about here tonight and the work all of you done. Please, as we get openings, keep applying, because everyone is really impressive and brings a lot to the table, and we're very fortunate.
Thank you.
To have people that want to serve.
Thank you, Councilor Merkel. I'd like to say a little thing about that. I think what's really unique about this is this seems like it's one of the only appointments that actually comes through council, and I'm always excited to see the consistency of applicants when it comes to the Tree Commission. So again, I appreciate everyone coming here this evening. Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, Chair. I would also agree with that. This is, I think we have like this in the CPC that we appoint, and it's always kind of strange to be holding interviews in a public meeting, but nevertheless, we always get great applicants, and that is certainly the case tonight also. I will say that I did talk to Ms. Mellis in preparation for the meeting to ask what are the qualities that she's looking for the people that are to fill in for the people that are stepping down. Like, what is she lacking? There is a lot of knowledge on the board with the certified landscape architects that are there now. And the one thing that she did say was what they're missing is what Jane Rumrell did with the graphic artist knowledge, with the ability to take a concept and simplify it for the public. And that kind of struck me in looking at the applications, all of which would be great adds for the board, I will say, for the commission. And that's the only reason I would refer approval for David Livingston for the opening, the alternate opening.
All right, under discussion. Councilors? All right. Council Merkel?
Second?
All right, so that was a motion.
Yeah, I was looking for my language here. So the motion is to move to refer to the council for approval the appointment of David Livingston in the position of the alternate from the general public.
All right. Seconded by Councilor Merkel.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? All right, let the record show I see 3 hands. I am a no. Matter carries. All right, excellent. All right, thank you, everybody. So thank you for coming this evening. And now we're going to move. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, next agenda item. We have the City Council delegate the authority to City Clerk for the use of City Council chambers in the anteroom with the City Council President's approval. Oh.
Just to clarify, Darlene Mellis, Chair of the Tree Commission. What happens to those members whose appointment is up to the mayor and they seek reappointment? And I'm specifically talking about Rachel McCarter, who is our engineer, Susan Yolkelson, who's general public. Did you reappoint me, or did he just do it and that's all that needs to be done? Could you just clarify that for me?
So we will get clarification on that. I know that if your term does expire, there is an ample amount of time that you can serve on the board without having to come off the board. So,
Okay. But,
Councilor Marcillo?
but I have received my reappointment letter, so did it come through you folks? Because I'm in the same batch as these other people.
I think we had 1 or 2 appointments on our last agenda that we voted on. It looks like there's other ones that are up for reappointment, and so the mayor will bring those through
Okay.
as soon as he's ready. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. So on the matter of City Council chambers, under discussion, councilors? Don't be shy. Councilor Marcillo.
Thank you, Chair. Can you just clarify what we're talking about here?
Yes.
And why this is coming in when the clerk already has the ability to do this?
So it's my urgency to have meetings when I can this summer. This seemed like a good time to bring this up. So here we are.
But what is the purpose?
The purpose is to either have a recommendation on the matter. And if there's not one, then I could see this going 2 ways. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Varela. I think since what this order is to delegate authority to the city clerk with the president, I think with not having the city clerk or the city solicitor available tonight, also that, as Councilor Marcillo pointed out, the city clerk already has this power and is free to discuss with the president as they like, and also that we have an order already to have a larger conversation, order number 207, to have a larger conversation and discuss creating a new policy concerning the use of the council chambers. I motion to keep this in committee.
seconded by Councilor Harvey. All right, all those in favor? All right, under discussion? No discussion. Doesn't seem like it. Councilor Presniewski.
Thank you, Chair Varela, not being a member of the committee. I'm a little bit confused over here because there was an order that was written by our solicitor giving the authority to the city clerk to be able to use the chambers with the consensus of the council president, whoever is sitting. That was brought back into committee for discussion. And I'm not sure exactly what we're doing here, but we're not having a discussion. We're keeping it in committee. I'm not sure for what reason. Is that order going to be from now on? I think the order was originally drafted to address the ADA compliance part of it, which was done. And from my understanding from Lisa Camerata, who's I think she's the director of the ADA, the city's director of the ADA. She's not finished, and she still plans on putting in a little bit better signage and pathways through here so that it's more obvious that it's ADA compliant. But I thought we were putting this to bed.
So I can answer that. So
put back into bed. It's staying in committee. I'm not quite.
So what? So this was on the. So Beth Renard did have a recommendation on this, and the reason I brought this in is how it's written in our language and ordinance. It says that the city clerk is basically the one that can make the decision, but it's also up to city council. The problem we have right now is it's up to the body of the council. What we are trying to do with this order is, instead of it having to go in front of the body to deliberate if, let's say, an event from the mayor's office was appropriate or not, it would be a lot easier just to have the approval of the president of the city council to approve that without it actually having to come in front of the council. And that's the reason.
That's the order that was written.
Yes, correct.
As you said.
Which we're discussing right now.
Right. So is there a reason to keep it in committee if that order was good? I'm a little bit confused. The order was that the clerk will have permission to the use of the council chambers in the anteroom with consensus from the president, so that it doesn't have to be discussed at every council meeting about whether, whether it's promotions or Boy Scouts or whatever it is that's coming up here. But yet, we're keeping it in committee because, for what reason?
Well, and if it was up to me, I wouldn't keep this committee. I would like to discuss this. The reason we're discussing this is, when it comes to how the language is written right now, the city clerk can make the decision off the bat. I want I'll approve this event to happen in city council chambers. What we can't do at this point is it has to come in front of the body to almost deliberate on it, to say yes or no. What we're trying to do right now is, right now, we all know we've had some events that were not approved to be in city council chambers that might have been reasonable, but we kind of ran out of time. It didn't come in front of council, and the clerk made the decision. The reason we're talking about this tonight is that it would be a lot easier to streamline this, and basically the clerk and the city council president would work together to decide what events happen, if appropriate, through the mayor's office and the city council chambers.
And that's what we have before us. And
yes.
It should be voted. If you want that to be, the council so feels that that's the way it should be, then it should be voted tonight by this committee to approve that language that was written by our city solicitor.
Correct.
So that it becomes part of
the order would
carry
reflect
through.
that and carry through and say that the president and the city clerk.
Correct. But the vote was to keep it in the committee, not to give a positive recommendation.
Right now,
council.
Right now, there's a motion for it to remain in committee. Did I hear a second? Councilor Harvey, this is under discussion. Councilor Harvey.
Yeah, I'm going to, now that it's been explained a little bit more as to why we're sitting here and what we were supposed to be talking about, yeah, I'm going to remove my second.
Okay.
In committee.
Councilor Marcello.
Thank you. I will second the motion, and I have a couple of reasons. One is, at that last meeting, we talked about developing a policy for the use of the chamber that then would not require any sort of approvals, specific or not, right? Such as, if there's a flag raising that's approved by the mayor and they want to have a speaking program and there's no one using the city council chambers, then that would be an approved use of the chambers, right? This is the sort of thing that has to go into a policy. That's still in committee also. There's so many things tied up with this that are still in committee that to rush on one is, in my mind, putting the cart before the horse. Secondly, Councillor Stott was the one that began all of this, asked for it to go to committee, and she was not told about this meeting in time to change her plans that she had for tonight. So I don't think it's very respectful to act on this when she's not here to talk about what her issues were with it in the first place. So there's a couple of reasons why I don't think that it should come out of committee. It's not changing anything. Any requests for the use of the room come to the city clerk, who then can talk to you as the current president about the use of the room. So by not acting on this is not changing anything. It's not stopping anything. The room is still being used when it needs to be used, right? And if we want to say that, well, it needs to go to the council, it can go to the council like block parties go to the council during the summer. If you want to approve this use, just tell me, get 6 votes, boom, it's done. It doesn't have to be tied up to a meeting. But there's stuff we need to work through, and that's why all of these things are in committee, and that's why I was curious why this was coming up tonight, especially when Councillor Stott's not here and said she couldn't be here, so.
So the original order was brought in by me. The reason I brought this in is we need a fix now. I'm not sure who's working on the policy, when it's going to happen, but we had 2 reasonable events that weren't allowed to be in city council chambers because of the exact way that our original ordinance is written. A Polish American flag raising and the AAPI event were not approved to be in city council chambers. So as it stands now, if we don't make this change, it's ultimately up to the city clerk to make that quick decision. If that meeting, let's say if that event doesn't happen for a city council meeting, city council can't weigh in and say, you know what, this is appropriate. I think we should approve this happening in city council chambers. So that's why this is kind of creating an issue. And for me, I agree. We need a policy, but until we have a policy, it's ultimately up to the city clerk to decide quickly. And if that's not the case, we can't deliberate and we can't decide until we have a meeting about that. So that's the reason I brought in this order. When it comes to Councillor Stott that wants this to remain a committee, I understand that we're talking about the policy in general. This is not, anything in ill will for me to bring this in. We need a quick fix now, and that's why I brought this in tonight. Councilor Salem.
So maybe this is my confusion on all the different orders that are in this committee about this same topic. But what happened to the order of that things would be approved by the city council? Was that voted on?
No, so that was brought in by me as an order, which we're discussing tonight. So when it comes...
No, you're talking about a different order.
So no.
We had another order that said that the city council would vote on events that happen in the chambers.
So right now, as written in our ordinance, what it says is that the city council may delegate this to the city clerk. That's how it's written right now. So it's right now it is up to city council and the clerk, but we have to deliberate on the approval of the matter as it's written currently in our code of ordinances when it comes to the use of the city council chambers. This order would effectively change it so that it's up to the city council president's approval and not ultimately up to the clerk who we assign as a designee. That's why I'm bringing this in. So I reviewed this with Beth, and this is the language we came up with, which seems to be the path to least resistance. If we bring in a bunch of counselors in this, we are deliberating, and that creates a different situation for us and makes it more complicated to approve what I would say reasonable events in city council chambers.
Yeah, I will restate that I'm uncomfortable not having Counselor Stott here when she was the one that asked for this to go to committee. And I will say that there was no email sent to us about what was on the agenda for tonight. And all I heard about was the tree commission. I did not even hear about this. So, yeah.
I mean, the meeting was posted within 48 hours, and I had both on the agenda. Under discussion, Councilor Presniewski.
Thank you, Chair Barella, again, not being a member of the committee. I agree with Councilor Marcillo that we should have a written policy on how this chamber, the appropriateness of how the chamber can be used. I think that the city solicitor's order was the first step in making that policy, because the original ordinance states that all of that decision-making was to the clerk. This order gives it the second stamp of approval of the council president, whoever that is sitting, speaking basically for the city council, so that every matter that comes up about the use of the council chambers doesn't tie up the council meetings, which also can open the Pandora's box for a discussion that may not be productive because of certain feelings. I feel that the checkpoints are made pretty strongly if the clerk makes a decision, runs it by the president, and the two of them decide. I think that given the president should have the ability to speak for the city council on the use of it. But that does not mean that there should not be a policy made. We should have a policy made over here about the use of it. But this is a step in the direction, because right now, the way it sits today, it's haphazard. Just like you said, there was a couple of things that have happened here that were unfair to the people that were running it, and yet we've still run events here. We just had an event for our finance director who was leaving. Whose approval was that? That was, of course it made sense to have that over here. It was a wonderful event, but it wasn't, it was the city clerk who made the decision, I guess, because by ordinance it is. Well, if we go with what our city solicitor said, then the city clerk would have contacted the president would have said, of course, the two of us agree that it should be on it. But I don't want to see every single event that's held in council chambers be brought in a city council meeting. That's just going to bog it down. This is the first step of a policy. But again, I agree that a policy should be made. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Councilor Merkel.
Thank you, Chair Varela, and I appreciate all the points made. Yeah, my understanding is that the clerk, has the authority to approve events here, and I mean, I would think that she's communicating, already, or whoever's in that role, about events here, but without just the questions about what we're allowed to send through the council for decision-making. I know sometimes we do approvals that need to be done quickly by a majority vote via email. Will be reached out to, and the acting clerk can sign for us. And without the city solicitor here for some guidance on putting something in place and a little bit more information on this, I'm just not ready to change anything policy-wise at this point.
And I think that's fine. I think this is the start of the discussion. The reason I want to discuss this is we need a quick fix now until there's a policy in place, because right now it's ultimately up to the city clerk, and I don't want to see our residents and our stakeholders say the city clerk says no to maybe a really reasonable event. And this is my intent of this. But I understand we need an overarching policy going forward. Absolutely. So I hope we can get that through before the summer or at the end of the summer. Councilor Marcillo. Thank
you, Chair. I'm not sure why the president can't ask the city clerk to include him on the decisions for the use of the room. in the interim while we're working through all of this, instead of going right to changing the ordinances right now. I just feel like we may change it to something else in 2 months. And so I still feel like this is something, a larger topic that's under discussion about the use of the room. And I know, I don't see how it would not happen. They understand what's happening right now with the use of the room and the questions that are being asked of them, and why certain things are given approval and certain things are not. So I'm not sure why the president can't say, please loop me in, let's discuss the use of the room.
That's the problem. Our city clerk did not defer or ask the
Our
president.
city clerk is away right now.
Correct, but before her leave of absence, we had a few events. She didn't even confer with the city council president about the event, and she deemed it, I'm not going to make a decision because I don't know if it's contentious or not. She did not confer with our city council president, or any councilor at that matter, and I find that problematic, and that's why we're talking about
Well,
this.
and I don't want to jump on your words. I think that there is there were some questions raised about certain uses of this room, and that's why I think Beth needs to be here, because she was at the meeting where the problem was brought up. So again, I think if we're using that flag-raising example, then she had concerns. Beth was in the room, and I thought agreed with her. So I'm curious, like, this is why the policy needs to be written before we start jumping through hoops. And I don't know why we're changing the ordinance in the middle of this. Like, and I know that they will confer with the city council president in the meantime.
Councilor Prostansky.
So the ordinance, the way it sits now, is that the clerk has supreme power over this, the way it is right now. The reason that this issue was brought up, and the reason that the city clerk denied use of this room, was because at that time it was found to be non-compliant with the ADA rules. Lisa Camerata, our HR director, came over here with Beth Renata, our city solicitor, and made the room the way it is now, which meets all the requirements for the ADA. That was the reason, according to the city clerk, that there could not be anything here, was because we weren't ADA compliant. So she sent those two incidences, which were supposed to be here, over across the street, which was not conducive at all. That problem's been fixed, period. Now, in order to have a little bit of checks and balances, the city solicitor said, why don't we have the city clerk and the president, council president, make the decision on that? So the order was put in, which took it a step further, because right now we're backwards. We're back to the city clerk. If we pass this, which begins the process, it's the city clerk and the president. And then we can continue it with a continuing research into the proper policy for this room. I just feel that if we go back, it goes back to the city clerk. If we do what the city solicitor had put forward, it was a simple two-sentence order, at least someone else's checks and balancing, and you don't have that. I'm not even sure what we called it downstairs, the clerk's single opinion about what's appropriate and what's not. You have the president speaking also for the city council. So I just think that this is the beginning of a better way of conducting ourselves.
Councilor Marcelo.
Is that me?
Yeah, and then you want to talk after.
Okay. My recollection was that she had a problem with having those events in the chamber because it would open us up to having to approve all organizations that want to use the chamber. That's different than ADA requirements. That is understanding the use of the chamber and the groups that are asking to use the chamber. That was what I understood her hesitation was. That's why I think Beth Bernard should be here.
Well, and I can echo that. After seeing the emails, that was the overarching concern of the clerk, was opening up to all stakeholder groups. And I disagree with that statement because every event that comes through here is vetted through the mayor's office. And I don't think the mayor's office is going to bring in anything that might be problematic or contentious when it comes to a association or group within the city council chambers. Councilor Merkel, Councilor Harvey, then Councilor Prosniewski.
Thank you, Chair Varela. So I find this conversation even more confusing than since at the beginning of it, it was said that there was no communication from the clerk's office about turning down certain events. But then the conversation moved on to that there was communication, that at one point it was considered that they would turn it down because of ADA compliance. Then it was turned down because of what Councilor Mazzillo spoke to about, what should be allowed. And that seems to contradict that there was a refusal to speak to the council president about what was coming in. And that's alarming, in just a lack of communication right then and there. So I agree. For me to feel comfortable to take any votes, I would need the city solicitor here for guidance. And more information on if, there's, what are we sorting out? A refusal to even just, to discuss with the council president what's been proposed to happen in here, or it was turned down for one reason or turned down for a different reason. That's all just a little too stuck in the weeds for me to want to take a vote tonight. And as we've said, it stands that the clerk's office can consider events that come in through the mayor's office that are proposed to happen here. And I would hope that the clerk is discussing these proposals with the council president. We need communication here, no matter what we put on paper. We need communication. So I think I want to wait for the city solicitor as well. Thank you.
Councilor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. So let me just clarify, or can you clarify for me? Basically, what's being asked in this, what you brought forward tonight, is a second means of checks and balance until we come up with the appropriate plan or use of plan, or whatever you want to call it, for the chamber itself. So right now, the city clerk, to this day, still has full reign, can say yay or nay to whatever comes through as far as coming into the chambers. What we're trying to do now is make sure that there's somebody else checking, or the city clerk is confirming with the president that this is yay and nay. So everything that comes to the city clerk as far as use of the chambers would have to vent through the president if this goes through. And this would only be a temporary thing until we came up with the actual plans of use for the chambers. Am I right in that?
Correct. So this language was vetted through Beth Renard. We came up with this language based on what would be reasonable, and it's the easiest pathway to have the president have the say with the city clerk on if the events are appropriate or not. I don't think, if any, it would be really interesting and political for us to vote on as a body if we think it's okay if the AAPI organization can have a speaking event in city council chambers. I think things like that are reasonable for the city clerk to vet that and to go to the city council president, at least one councilor, to be like, is this okay? Do you think this is okay? I don't think a lot of these events need to be politicized, and I don't think they need to go through the council, but it hasn't been happening. The city clerk has been making the decision if they want an event here or not without conferring with any city councilor, and I think that is inappropriate. So this is why I brought this order in, vetted through Beth Renard, that at least it has to now go through city council president if it's appropriate.
So basically what I'm getting at is it's not changing anything that we're already trying to do elsewhere. This is just a temporary, until everything else takes place, and Beth Renard and you sent this through. So this is Beth Renard's order, your order, but she wrote it up.
Yes.
So I don't see what the issue is if it's a temporary fix to make sure that everything that comes to the clerk's office goes through the president before it comes into chambers, as far as use.
It wouldn't even go into chambers. The event would be approved.
No, I mean, before the chambers gets used.
Correct.
It has to go
Correct.
from the clerk's office to the president, and the president's basically speaking for the body of the council at that point. Yeah, I think that's, like Councilor Presniewski said, that's a step in the right direction until we come up with all the paperwork or the right written.
And I agree. I think that we need a policy. We need an overarching policy, and it's way more complicated than we're talking about. But for right now, we need to make sure that if an event is reasonable, that at least goes through one of us, because that hasn't happened in the past. And that's why I brought that in. I found that very problematic, and we need a fix on that. So with that under discussion. All right, so we have a motion from Councilor Merkel for this to remain in committee, seconded by Councilor Marcillo. All those in favor for remaining in committee? All those opposed? All right, so let the record show, this is tied, so that means it fails, which means it remains in committee, correct? Yeah? I'll entertain another motion. It's tied, which means it dies.
This means my motion
So-
to the committee dies.
Yeah.
You voted the motion to send it back to the council.
Councilor Presniewski, under discussion.
I think Council Merkel just answered that question. The motion did not pass because there was not a majority. That's what it is.
So the matter remains in committee. All right. Councilor Harvey, under discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to send it back to council with a positive recommendation to pass this order for...
Councilor Harvey makes a motion for a positive recommendation for the City Council chamber at the ante room with the City Council President's approval, seconded by me. All those in favor? All those opposed? Matter still dies. Councilor Merkel. I'm sorry, Councilor Marcillo.
I just want to say, I am not trying to be a pain in the neck here. I really think that Councilor Stott should have been here, and that was the discussion point that should have happened, and I'm sticking with that. It's a matter of respecting the person who wanted it to go to committee.
All right. All righty. So I get another motion. Councilor Harvey.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? We were actually see 4 hands, please. Thank you, everybody, for the enjoyable conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.